Hello humans and other species. I'm Batsy, and today we are going to expand the industrial area by a lot. Like a really whole lot. But before that, I think I found the lamest, but also funniest way of going mining. This is the mining shaft I have been doing for a long while. You can see how my inventory is completely full already, which means I should have brought toolboxes to help carry more stuff, and also a crafting table so I can compact the ores into raw blocks. Or even use a backpack with stack upgrades, that would be really helpful. But instead of all of those smart solutions, I thought, well, why not just move to the industrial world and store it there? Isn't this silly? I mean, it makes perfect sense. We are in a different place in each world, so this is essentially like a teleport command. Now we can simply dump all the ores to get processed. And we obviously have a handy crafting table to compact all of the other stuff. Maybe a bit overkill because we could have brought a backpack with us, but check this out. Poof is magic. We can obviously use toolboxes to quickly store things out and go back to mining instead. Anyway, I was mining because I quite need the XP. Obviously, all of these ores are going to come in real handy. But my tools suck a bit, and I want to get some gear enchanted. I already made these nice looking boots. Damn also had Swift Sneak, so that and Depth Strider are the two main enchants I wanted on my gear. Of course, having capacity on the back tank is always good too. We only really missing the helm and diving boots to get enchanted. And I wouldn't mind getting looting on the knife. I need to get some pearls. Thankfully, Damn has an enchanting table. I'm sure it shouldn't take too long to get the couple of enchants that we are missing. Right, of course, I forgot to bring my lapis. So now yes, as I was saying, I'm going to try with the knife first. We ideally want to get looting and sharpness, so we can kill some endermen. This mod that allows to reroll is incredibly good. We have enchantment industries, so I had to give something to the enchanting table to avoid making them obsolete. Looting, that's what we want. With unbreaking. That's not too bad, but I kinda wish it would have sharpness too. The knife has so little damage otherwise. Damn has a sharpness 3 in here. Maybe we can copy a few of them and get level 4 or something. For now, let's take a look-see at the boots. I want to make use of the 30 levels as best as we can. Sure, I guess that's good enough already. I just wanted unbreaking in the boots. The helmet is half broken though. I probably want to make a new one to be honest. If we get fancy stuff, that's nice, but we also just want unbreaking. These copper items break easily otherwise. Frenzied. I have no idea what that does. I preferably want to avoid weird enchants from the Dungeons mod, just in case they have weird interactions that we don't want. Okay, that's pretty much perfect, right? I mean, respiration is a bit unnecessary with the back tank. But we have unbreaking and protection, that's good enough. Of course, we also want to add mending to those items. I would rather not be enchanting stuff again. What in the name of all that is holy? Are you seeing this too? So this one has respiration, protection, unbreaking. The book adds mending. So it obviously also gives aqua affinity for some magical reason. There is no aqua affinity here, clearly. There is no aqua here either. It's just a mending book. But boom, free aqua affinity. This is the most bizarre thing I have seen in a long while. The funniest part is that the diving helmet already has aqua affinity as part of its mechanics, so the enchant is 100% useless. I think I have a much fitting name for this weirdly bugged helmet. There you go, the unholy helmet. But as fun as that was, we do need to go back to the industrial area. There is some stuff to be built today. We have a really nice amount of iron and andesite alloys so far, but we are going to need a lot more than this for the big projects I have planned, especially for the farms for the industrial area. So obviously, today we need to make those 2 farms. Andesite needs iron to be made. It also requires flint, which is a side product from making iron. So, it only makes sense to build both farms together. That's obviously 2 ahead of us, because first we need to bring some lava in here. It's required to make andesite stone. Am I randomly explaining the plan while I make rose quartz? Yes, I am. Yeah, we need to deal with those random guys too. They keep trying to sell me rugs and insurances. Okay, so the plan for today. We have the cobble storage right there. So it kinda makes sense to use that same chunk for storage for other farms. Think like having smaller containers to store all the iron, zinc, brass, and everything like that. Then the obvious choice is to use the adjacent chunk to produce the iron and andesite alloys. I mean, a chunk sounds like a lot, but once we start adding tons of basins and all of that, we might not have that much spare room. There is also the deal with the lava, which obviously, that one we have no other choice, but to build it in front of the portal. It's probably too big to just have lava in it. So maybe we can add some other fluids to the chunk. My idea is to import lava from the corner again and maybe have a tank or something going on. But then we have this entire side for other things. Maybe we can add a honey farm in the corner, that could be useful. And then some other tanks for stuff like milk, maybe? Potentially? I'm really not sure how many useful fluids are there that could be required for the industrial area. Yeah, see? Something like this is what I mean. A few cute tanks to store some backup lava, and still plenty of room for a bee farm and a couple of other things. I might need some suggestions on what those other things could be. But this sounds like a plan to me. Since we have already seen how the nether lava logistics work during the episode of the steam engines, I'm going to skimp a little bit over it to not bore you all with the same process. We obviously need a drain to extract lava from the buckets, and hoppers happen to be the best and most compact way of forcing a direction in the drain. If that sounds like Chinese to you, let me show you what I mean. The items will bounce over the drain, moving forward from the direction they received the item from. So once we remove the belt, we can see all of the buckets bouncing off the drain on the opposite side of the hopper. Obviously, we could have done this in many ways, but I kinda like it. It looks compact and funny. The nether side will have the same shooting platform as before, which we should make sure it's facing the right belt, obviously. Okay, that's perfect. Then we extend a ton of belts until we reach up the side where the spouts are. We make an entirely new spout to fuel the system independently. And obviously overstress it because just now I remember there was 0 stress units left. But having solved that, we just need to connect things up on the side. And we should have a functional loop, I think. I mean, the buckets are flying. And things seem to be looking good on the side. Yeah, there are lava buckets. The system is working nicely. Or so I wanted to say, but then I completely changed the setup from scratch. One single drain was slower than the spout, so it was holding back the system by quite a bit. And the transfer between tanks wasn't any better. So I thought I would just add a drain for each of the tanks. That way the spout can work at max capacity. But then it raises the question, is the spout even enough to feed the system? And the answer is no, obviously. But I added 2 of them with some weird and funky looking logistics. And I had to double the amount of lava wheels too, to keep up with the demand. Now the 2 spouts at max speed are able to sustain 2.5 drains. You can see this footage from when I was testing things out. The middle drain isn't always working, but it's often enough. And it means that this setup has essentially the throughput of 2 spouts, since the delay of the buckets is compensated by the backup tanks. Overall happy with this design. It looks cooler than before, and I think this amount of lava generation will do us good for a while. Before we continue with the industrial area, there is a little event we should attend to. We have this event going on to build a station for the spawn town called Fong Hollow. CSP said that there is barely a couple of days remaining, so I better get started on building my entry. And I believe was XT who mentioned that most of the entries so far are a bit flat. So I promised him that I would make sure to add plenty of verticality on mine. I have the best idea on how to build it, and girl, it's going to be so vertical. Obviously, any good train station starts with some ladders. We will have to test a few of them, see if any of them works for what I want to make. Not good enough. This one is almost there, but it looks a bit two-dimensional. Oh yeah, this is perfect. This is so perfect. There, we have the train tracks now. I mean, I said I was going to add plenty of verticality to it, didn't I? It doesn't get any more vertical than this, right? This is going to look so good. We need to raise a platform without fully covering up the tracks. But I guess the usual blocks won't work vertical. Where am I putting myself into? Oh yes. This is exactly right. Okay, this is just perfect. But I feel like we should add a draining system under those stairs, just for detail. That's a bummer. I wanted to use the blast furnace texture, but obviously can't turn it around. Oh baby, never mind the blast furnace. This looks so cool. Oh yes, with a tough and deep slate at the back is even better. Now my thinking is that we need some lines on the sides. Like those precaution lines they add onto the stations, so you stay away from the trucks. I feel like mangrove could be the one. It adds good contrast, and red usually means danger or caution. We just need to find the right texture to blend with the spruce. Oh, girl, we found it. This is just perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. It blends decently with the spruce, and it has the line there saying, "Hey, I'm dangerous. You might not want to cross me." This is really getting there. Wood aside, it's quite giving me those Subway vibes. This is making me wonder, how much effort is too much effort for a meme build? I mean, not that this is a meme build, of course. I'm super serious about this vertical train station, yes. Gods, this is such a good bin, no? And yes, I imagine what you're thinking. But Batsy, why aren't you taking the event more seriously? Lead by example and that kind of stuff. Very simple really, I don't want to compete with my own supporters. I really don't want to be in the position that I might win one of these events. This is for them to have fun with. I think I should participate though. It would be weird if everyone plays except me. And a little bit of fun never hurt anyone. Probably. I think I'm pretty much done here. We made a nice cross-section of a station. And it looks weirdly good. I'm not kidding or throwing flowers at myself. If this was horizontal and functional, it's actually not that bad. Many of the details are honestly quite good. I might end up making myself a station or something with this design. I had this idea of making a tiny subway with small little shuttles and whatnot. So who knows, maybe I will build something like this for that. Anyway, hopefully they have fun with it when judging the stations. I actually enjoyed the challenge of building something vertically. It's weird what things we take for granted that obviously don't work on a different axis. But we gotta continue that industrial area project. The iron and andesite farm won't build itself. Something I want to mention before we get into it is that this time I did some extensive planning on where exactly I want each thing to go. This is a rather complex build to make, but mostly because of Tom's storage. So I had to make sure it fits in a chunk and that the time-lapse isn't just me rebuilding stuff over and over. And if you're wondering about all of those things in the floor, I ended up connecting things up to the steam engine from underneath. After a long while considering where I wanted to place all of the shafts and everything, I came to the conclusion that on top of the farms will always look weird, so why not underground? It's a good way to hide the messy connections anyway. Now yes, Editor Batsy, take on with the time-lapse. This farm was a fun one to make, but weirdly a very complex setup. I mean, there is not that much going on, so you would assume it can't be that hard. I think the main reason why I found it complex is because of Tom's storage. At face value, it's easy to understand how it works. But then there are many details like what connections take priority and other unexpected interactions that aren't as obvious. It honestly took me a long time to fully polish the logistics and obviously make it reliable for more than a minute without constant monitoring. I even had to fully restart the entire server at one point because the Tom's network decided to soft lock itself. I'm not even joking. It bugged itself so hard because of chunk unloading that I had to restart the server to solve it. But it was kinda a fun challenge in a way. I honestly enjoyed having to figure out all of those obscure interactions and idiosyncrasies of the mod. And because there is time left on the time-lapse, I actually want to share some good news. I often mention that maybe I was too busy that week and I had to delay the video. Or maybe I got sick again and struggled to be on my computer for a long time. It's often things that delay or prevent me from working on my content. Well, this time is the complete opposite. I had some medical appointments yesterday, and I actually received excellent news. I mean, not that suddenly I'm the healthiest person in the planet, but everything went as good as it could have. Maybe some random stuff to share during a time-lapse, but I'm happy today. It feels like God's decided to shine upon me for once, so I thought I would share it with you all too. And by now, it's probably the time to fully explain what this massive mess actually does. And what better way to do it than with a sick cinematic. It all starts with a massive cobblestone generator that produces more than 360,000 cobble per hour. It all gets nicely stored in a vault and transported forward with the help of Tom's storage. The chutes then remove the items from the network and deposit it on each one of those crushers, where it gets processed into gravel. The gravel moves forward through a different connection to be dumped into a water tank by another set of chutes. Here's where the gravel will get washed up to be transformed into flint and iron nuggets. The flint then will get moved along the back and added to this row of basins. Gravel also gets taken from a parallel circuit. And we cannot forget about the lava from the nether, which gets transported underwater until it reaches the basins from underneath. Those materials combined will create the andesite blocks for us. We then take the iron nuggets from the washing setup and move it forward along the circuit until it reaches the final basins. Here it gets mixed with the andesite to slowly produce the andesite alloys we so desire, and converted into blocks for better storage. The rest of the iron will move to a different direction, where it will meet a row of basins to get packed into iron ingots. Some of the ingots will continue forward and get further packed into iron blocks, while the rest of the iron will move to the side to be deposited into a different basin. With the help of a well-fed blaze burner, we are going to convert the iron into industrial iron, which will also be packed further into blocks. All of these blocks need to go somewhere, and that's why we have a small circuit underneath, so they all can get nicely stored in their respective vault. And for those curious about numbers, I will leave on screen the amounts that each section produced after 1 hour of the farm running. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it? I think editor Batsy covered it in great detail. I guess there are a couple of things to point out. For example, Tom's networks are kinda weird. Here we have a bunch of inputs with the chutes, while the outputs are straight basins. So in order to avoid the gravel from looping between the basins, and especially if we have several cables going to other places, it is needed to place the connector in the middle to split the inputs and outputs. Now, I have zero idea why that is. I had issues with the flint and iron too. The connector was further along the network, and it was just constantly looping outputs between basins and whatnot. So I guess my random tip is that if you need to have several cables that lead to several outputs, try to have them all after the connector. For some reason that fixed the problem for me, though I still had to restart the server because eventually it just soft-locked itself. It's really weird. And also, sometimes the output priorities are super weird. I had times that I was overfeeding the industrial iron, other times where all iron was being fed to the andesite. It's like depending on how it wakes up, it decides to do one thing or another. My last campaign about Tom's, though I guess it's not that big of a deal. I really wish we could manage the cables a lot better. I kept having issues making sure that cables don't connect with each other. Otherwise, networks just mix together, and we are back to weird loops and 1,000 other issues. But believe it or not, I'm actually enjoying the mod. Leaving aside the weirdness of some interactions, it's quite fun to do something different than just belts all the time. But I think this will be it for this episode, to be honest. We have done quite a lot, and I still have some things to finish editing and work to do on the server side. I hope the Fangies enjoyed this episode, and maybe let me know if that cinematic was interesting to watch. I kinda liked it and might add more in the future. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.